All right, guys, thanks for joining me today. I am headed to church tonight, and it will be a different church. Let me tell you that. And that's one of the problems too, when pastors do not understand women who have had an abortion and women who won't put up with any man's crap. None of it. That is very common from women who have had an abortion because you've had not only a doctor mistreat you in authority, but you lost your baby, right? So for a man in authority to talk down to a woman, number one, it's not okay. I don't know who the hell he thinks he is, basically. And number two, to not know somebody, to not even know someone, that's a whole nother story. So, anyways, guys, live action. Planned Parenthood Maria, I think it's Rodriguez. You can check her out 3 days ago on there. I just saw it. She had worked at Planned Parenthood for 17 years, and the truth is finally coming out. She talks about how women have been screaming and yelling and begging doctors to stop, and the doctor continues. He says, "Oh, too late. I already started," etc., etc. One of the girls in the comments was one of those girls who asked for him to stop, and he wouldn't. We are finally seeing the truth of abortion come out. It is like a rape, guys. It really is. Because you're being taken advantage of, especially young girls. They're vulnerable. They don't know what's going on. And you have a doctor, not just, he's not having sex with you, but he is taking something sacred from you, which is much like rape. Rape is something has been taken from you, your innocence. Abortion, I think it's worse than rape. I honestly do, because you're not just losing some of your innocence in abortion, but you are losing a child that is precious and beloved. So I left a comment on there, and basically for me, I had the trauma of shame, condemnation, isolation, my whole identity change. Like I was a good kid. I talk about that. I never really got in much trouble, but then all of a sudden, those words, "Don't tell me you're pregnant," and the shame and condemnation I got being sent to my room for getting pregnant without even a conversation of how did I get pregnant and what happened, was what the trauma I was dealing with both parents at me at the same time. And that is hard to process right there. So on top of that, trying to process that, when you are in that guilt and that shame and you are in big trouble, let me tell you, big trouble, you cannot make a very good decision. All you know is that you're in trouble and you better go along with whatever is going to be done to get you out of trouble. So this is the trauma stage that we have not solved, that most women go through, and they can't even logically choose abortion in a very informative way, I guess is what I'd say. And even if they tried, we now see Planned Parenthood, a worker there, admitting even if they try, they would be coerced. They're told it's not a baby. They're told it's a blob of tissue. Once they have that signature, they're free to go. And that's exactly what happened to me. I was told, just read the paper, don't sign it. So, it's kind of funny because nowadays, like I'm like cooking and I don't always read labels. And I'm like, that is weird, because you kind of went forward with that same habit in life. Like, you go grocery shopping, you don't read all the labels, you just, it's kind of weird. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, so it was just that trauma of just, you are in big trouble. Never mind, you're a mother now. Never mind, you have a child. It's just, you're in trouble. And that whole identity, just your whole world changing within seconds, and having others want to make a decision for you. So I am grateful to now see this coming out. I had a doctor. He was awful. He was absolutely awful. And then I've talked about that. And then the bedside manner was just awful, basically throwing my clothes back at me and telling me to get dressed. And this is a doctor. They don't call you by your name. They don't give you any dignity. It's just get in there, get it done. That's it. There's nothing else like this. And I was talking about this, that it's a profound experience. If you have a surgery, right, or a dentist appointment or something, you have some preparation. You're like, okay, this is what's going to happen. This is the aftercare that needs to happen after. No aftercare, nothing. I did get brought back to the clinic to be put on the pill, but there was no aftercare. So, this is the biggest lie, guys, right now in our country ever to have been fabricated, ever, that abortion is health care. So, I'm very glad to see this. I probably will watch the rest of this, and I will be commenting on more as I read books about abortion and how destructive it is. This doctor is like, all I did was destroy lives for 17 years. Yep, generation after generation. But she is one who is sorry, and God does forgive those who are truly sorry. So there's grace in that, but she has to also live with 17 years of killing babies, of putting baby parts together, and I just don't know how people can do it. I tend to, you know, I mean, I understand spiritually, that people are blinded until God opens their eyes. But even then, it is, I tend to have more compassion for women because doctors usually know. They've gone to school. I mean, if you're not educated, even stuff I was reading yesterday, how do you know? What kind of education are these doctors getting? You have to wonder. They're trained a certain way, so they're going to see it a certain way. But why is there not better training for doctors? They're supposed to know the body better than anyone else. And I don't understand it, guys. I really don't. Because a girl I can understand. She's not as educated. She's not a doctor. She's not an adult. Of course, she can be taken advantage of. But a doctor? I have a hard time with that. So anyways, but there is grace in it all. And, someone's sending me a message. There is grace in it all. But let's not pretend that women do not get forced or coerced or taken advantage of. Let's not pretend that. And that is something pregnancy centers need to change. They need to change their curriculum. It's a black and white, forgiven and set free. It does not give enough weight to each abortion and how each circumstance came about and how to, take abortion in a bigger conversation, which I like what live action does, and say, this is what happened. And then we have a bunch of people commenting to say, oh yes, I'm 72 now and this is what happened, and I'm 41 and this is what happened. We need a bigger conversation to solve this so that Planned Parenthood is shut down forever and there would never be abortion again, guys. Never. It should never ever happen, ever.